Hello everyone, and welcome to episode number 49 of the Rambler podcast, where we are passionate about sharing what makes Cathedral Prep the standard of excellence. On this episode of the podcast, we're thrilled to have Jake Scheloske on as a guest. Jake is the Vice President of Sales at Agresti Real Estate, and he has been the number one ranked real estate agent in the local industry since 2017. Last year, in 2023, Jake achieved an all-time high sales goal with over $52 million in sales volume. Jake also oversees and manages a team of over 100 agents here at the firm. Jake has a passion for helping people buy and sell commercial and residential real estate. Jake was born and raised here in Erie, Pennsylvania, and he is a proud graduate of Cathedral Prep, class of 2009. He is a husband and father of 3 children, and his goals are to continue expanding towards the Pittsburgh with the company and remain not only the number one agent, but also the number one sales firm as they achieved in 2023. So Jake, quite the accomplishments here. Welcome.
Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here and on the podcast.
Well, it's funny. We were joking about, getting your bio from you and stuff, and you said, my bio should just be work 16 hours a week or 16 hours a day and works for the people.
yeah, I'm a man of the people. So you were tracking me down to get you my bio, and the sales have been so hot and heavy, and managing all the agents, and I felt terrible. I was texting you in the middle of the night just saying, my bio should be I work 16 hours a day. So no, thanks again for having me here.
Yeah, no, I think it's great to highlight, individuals in our community that graduate from prep or villa and are achieving excellence in their careers. I mean, number one agent. I mean, that's quite the accomplishment. And, it's awesome to call you a brother of prep and, see the great things you're doing out there. And congratulations to you and your firm on the achievements.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I contribute a lot of my success to being a Cathedral Prep graduate and just the connections and people I met while I was there. And, being born and raised in Erie and just being in the community, you just don't know when you're in your freshman year how all those relationships are going to affect you, decades later.
Yeah.
So I'm very fortunate and blessed, and that's no miracle. It's just a lot of hard work,
Yeah. And for anybody who came to basketball games this year, volleyball games, you see the student section, that was you. You got involved with some sponsorships there. I love it, the student section, because I think it's such a cool one because it's unique, but also shows your passion for prep and how much you enjoyed that part of the school too, right?
Right, yeah. A funny story. So I was texting you. It was the Prep McDowell game. And my daughter Bella, she goes to Blessed Sacrament. She's going to be going to prep next year, and which is a whole nother story in itself. But she's like, "Hey, Dad, do you have any tickets for the game? I need to get some tickets. They're all sold out." And I was like, well, let me text Jimmy. I think I was going to get some tickets with the sponsorship. And then you were great. I show up like first class at the event. And they're like, oh, here's these club seat tickets. And I wasn't even supposed to stay. I was going to give her and one of her friends my ticket. And next thing you know, I get to sit down right behind the players. And I'm sitting in like club seats. And, I got to watch the Prep McDowell game. And Prep won, by the way.
Yes,
so I was super excited to be back. Mr. Achille giving the Prep Ramble chants at halftime. And
yes.
And then I get to tease my daughter a little bit because I got my picture behind the student section. So
Yep.
I'm sure, I'm embarrassing her a little bit,
Yeah, right. A little bit of embarrassing her and then telling her, I'm going to be keeping an eye on you.
That's what I said. I said, I'm always keeping an eye on you. Exactly, right?
Yeah, that's cool. No, I think it's great. We have an awesome program there with allowing people in the community or alums to, sponsor at the event center, show their pride for the school, and also the community with all the events we host there. So we appreciate you doing that as well. But, we've been talking about prep. Tell us a little about, why you even decided to attend prep.
Yeah, so I grew up in the Catholic school system. I went to Our Lady Christian School at the time, which is now St. Jude's, and just growing up in that community and all your friends, I can still remember. I mean, back then we had maybe 30 kids in each class. I think there was a total of 60 kids in my graduating class from OLC, and I want to say maybe 90% of the boys at the time were going to prep.
Right.
And there was a couple McDowell, a couple Merciers, but it was just, it was the thing to do. We'd go to all the football games and basketball games and, support the school. And so I just knew it was something that I was destined to do. too from childhood.
Yeah, and I would say I have similar, experiences that too. I went to Blessed Sacrament, and a lot of my buddies, we were all going to prep, and we grew up going to the games and all that. It was almost a no-brainer. Like, that's what we're doing.
Isn't this what I'm supposed to be doing?
Right, yeah. Are there other options?
No, I remember Blessed Sacrament, the old Bulldog football field. Didn't we play all the football games at Blessed Sacrament?
Yes, the Bixby Bowl.
The Bixby Bowl.
Yes, yeah.
Nice.
All those grade school football games were held there, and now a lot of them are held at the event center.
The event center, I know. I'm so pumped about that, just driving across 12th Street and the facility that all the students have access to. It just blows your mind, how prep continues to stay ahead of the game and has all the cutting edge technology and facilities, academically and athletically.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunities there for kids like Bella now, who will be there next year to experience that. That's super exciting.
Yeah. She actually, so we moved to Mill Creek, and I was struggling a little bit because I knew I wanted her to go to a private high school, and she's at that age now where, so she came and convinced me. She said, Dad, because we moved, she was going to Walnut Creek.
Yeah. And
her 8th grade year, she said, Dad, and she's really into basketball. I mean, travel. I mean, it's basically basketball 5 days a week at this point. I'm a part-time Uber driver. But she convinced me to go to Blessed Sacrament her 8th grade year because she wanted to get involved in the Catholic school system and also, play ball with some of the other girls that are going to be going to prep next year. And it turned out really well. They had a stellar team. They went to the finals. They lost in the championship game by like a few points. But she's going to be playing with all those girls next year, getting familiar with the system and the academics because they do hold you to a higher bar. You know, when you're doing that. And she's super smart. I mean, I don't even have to get on her case about it. Like when I went to prep, I'm sure my parents wish I was a little bit more like her. So, but no, I'm excited for her to go there next year and that opportunity for her to get. And I never even thought that would be possible when I was going to school there.
Yeah, I'm sure you're super proud of her. And when you do look back on your time as a student, what are some of the things that really stick out to you as some of your favorite memories and experiences there?
Yeah, that's a tough one, Jimmy. I have so many of them, and a lot of good memories. A lot of bonds were made. Back then we'd call it, a little bit of the brotherhood and kind of going to school with, all the guys and stuff. And I'm happy with what they're doing now and keeping the legacy alive. And so I just have so many good memories. I couldn't even begin to name some of them, but I was thinking a little bit about it. So we used to, before the Prep McDowell games would be a pretty big rival, right?
Yeah.
And so we would joke around a little bit, and one of my buddies, we got him in a tie and a prep Speedo, and we rolled up on McDowell's practice field, and while the football team was playing before the big game, he ran across the field, and he was in the prep tie and prep orange Speedo. So I don't know if you're allowed to let that one roll, Jimmy, but I mean, all in good fun and
all in good fun, yeah.
But that was one of my funnier memories. But I had a lot of really good memories. The teachers, Miss Maxon, she was really close to me. She really helped me through my time there. Slaby, all the math teachers, Achille, Mr. Shar.
Yep.
He's passed.
Yes.
Deschner.
I got subs.
Subs,
yes.
Yeah, Deschner, and just a lot of great leadership, a lot of help, and a lot of the moral compass that I have today was instilled in me then. I was just with a prep colleague. He was a couple years ahead of me. He's in town today. And I was telling you before the podcast, it just, it's almost like a miracle. The connections and people you run into at prep, and then everybody, graduates and starts their own careers and goes out in life, and those connections are still there today, and it's just such a wonderful thing. And so, I mean, I guess I jumped down a little rabbit hole there.
No, but it's pretty neat, those experiences we have as students. You kind of take it for granted because you're just in the moment. But then you have this opportunity now where we're a little bit more seasoned in life than we were then. You can look back and see, how those times meant to us. But then also, like you said, the connections we made, where now we're doing, business deals. People are colleagues of ours and, things like that are just pretty cool that put us in that class of people with being a Rambler.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It brings me back to the mind, body, and spirit. And I was just talking to the prep colleague on the way. I said, "Yeah, I'm doing a prep podcast today," and and we were kind of joking around about it a little bit. And I said, honestly, I mean, really, even today's life, you really got to keep that in mind. Is your mind, you got to keep a healthy mind and active, and your body, you got to take care of yourself, and then your spirit, And so it really is the full combination for, students to be able to get access to that and then, instill those values in their lives early on so they can go and replicate that in life.
Right.
So that's what I'm most fortunate about, is just for having that opportunity to be a part of that and make it through, because it is a little bit of a gauntlet. You don't know when you're that age, you gotta find your way. And I joke now, it's like, I thought, oh my goodness, I can't wait, all this homework I have to do and all these requirements and tests. And I thought once I got out of high school, I was like, this is gonna be a lot easier. And honestly, what it did is it taught me, the discipline and the workload, and we were joking about me working 16 hours a day, and I wouldn't have that if I didn't have those disciplines instilled in me throughout my time at prep.
Right. Prep's an environment that demands excellence, right? So you learn what it takes to achieve in the classroom, in athletics, in a club, whatever it is that you participate in. And then when you graduate, you're like, oh, I'm actually a step ahead of the game now because I went here.
Yep.
So how did you end up getting into real estate?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Agresti family. Brian Agresti's my father, and Skip Agresti's my grandfather. And the Agresti law firm back in the day would have been my great-grandfather. So Skip, his son, started a real estate business in like the 70s and 80s. It was called, I believe, Erie Metro.
Okay.
And then it got bought out by Holland Metro and so on and so forth. But so my grandpa Skip has instilled a lot of real estate in me as a little boy. And he had one of the largest real estate firms in the 70s and 80s. I think they had like 80 agents at the time. They had a tour bus. They'd go to speakers and
oh wow,
and, I think Tom Hopkins is an old school real estate kind of mentor, and so that real estate's been in the family for a while. Well, my dad Brian bought, I think, the appraisal business from him in 1991, and then he started the real estate brokerage in 2006, if I got my numbers right here. And so I graduated Cathedral Prep in 2009. And I actually got into the appraisal business because back in the 2006 to 2009 range, Agresti was predominantly like an appraisal company.
Okay.
And then my dad got his brokerage license in 2006. So I came on into the industry actually with a plan to become a certified appraiser. And I got my appraisal trainee license and started kind of training under my dad and another appraiser in the firm. And my dad was like, hey, Jake, you need to get your sales license just so while you're doing your appraisal thing and getting licensed there, which is a lot of hours. It's like over 3,000 hours and a few years of training.
Yeah.
He's like, you can get your sales license, maybe make a few sales on the side, just to help supplement your income, that kind of thing. So I ended up getting my sales license in the first few years. I think there was me and one other gentleman at the firm that would flip properties and things like that, kind of more of an investor, because my dad does a lot of investing and things like that, and definitely gave me the tool belt. I got to give him credit for giving me the tools that I needed and the guidance, which I'm very fortunate of to have had that. But I started doing the sales, and I loved it. I picked it up, and I was doing the sales part-time, and I was doing the appraisals full-time, and the sales started picking up. Now, keep in mind, Jimmy, I was 19 when I got my real estate sales license. So, I went to Cathedral Prep, and then I had Bella shortly after I graduated, and I got right into the real estate industry, and so it was tough. There was no huge Agresti number one firm, number one agent then. I was building with my dad and the Agresti team, and so sales started taking off. After about 2 years, I can remember going back to my dad. I said, "Oh my goodness, like I pretty much made my appraisal income doing sales. I think I want to go do this full time. And he supported me and like I said, gave me all the tool belt. And we've really built this together, kind of father-son team. And it just started taking off from there. I remember when I quit the appraisal business and started sales full time, I was I think I went 2 months and didn't have a paycheck. That fear of like, oh my goodness, I got to sell something or I'm not going to eat tomorrow. That drives a lot of agents and so I can remember I had a garage sale out in front of my house. I was selling stuff I didn't even want to sell just to make ends meet, but I was a man on a mission to keep selling, and from there it just kind of got better and better. And we started talking about expanding with agents and, what that would look like. And I just kind of developed into a management position. I mean, I don't want to give you the 2-hour story, but I mean, fast forward to today and, my life goal. I remember sitting with my grandpa and my dad at Tacky's. And my grandpa's got all the real estate stories in the book. He's a Cathedral Prep graduate too, by the way, Skip Agresti. I don't know what year he graduated, but I remember telling him, yeah, Grandpa, I want to be the #1 firm. I'm still wet behind the ears. And he's like, well, you're going to deal with a lot of agents and a lot of personalities and the public and everything like that. Are you sure this is what you want to do? And I was like, no, that's what I want to do. And so, I mean, it took a decade. I've been doing it 14 years now, and in 2017 was the first year I kind of set some goals for myself, and I want to achieve 10 million this year, 15 million, 20 million, 25 million. I always set a bigger goal each year, and I would accomplish it every year. I would hold myself accountable for those goals. And last year my goal was 50 million in sales, which was a heck of a goal. I didn't even think I was going to pull it off. But my #1 goal, even above my personal goal, was to have the #1 real estate firm. So we've been the #1 real estate office. So if you take Agresti Real Estate and go heads up with any other office in town, we've been the #1 office for a few years. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 years in a row.
Okay.
But when you combine 3 of ABC office, XYZ office together, and you take, one of their commercial offices and 2 residential, and you combine them all, we were pinning around like, 2nd or 3rd place the past few years. So we were climbing the leaderboard. I mean, mind you, I started at the bottom.
Right.
And last year was a huge accomplishment. We were the #1 real estate firm in all Erie County. We did 240 million. In sales volume. The second place firm did 200 million, and that really was just a really humble moment for me to just, it almost breaks you down, like, I accomplished that. So now I don't want to drop the ball. So now I'm trying to refocus on some of my new goals and things like that. And that's why I sent you that in the bio about, maybe future expansion, kind of heading down south. I mean, you start getting into some of these bigger markets. I mean, the average sale price in Erie is like $200,000, give or take.
Sure.
You get to a Pittsburgh market, and the first-time home buyer house is $300,000 or $400,000. But definitely Erie's the head base, and I don't want to forget about what we accomplished here. But I'm always kind of looking forward to see what the next goal is.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different directions I can take that, and I appreciate you sharing that how you got started and the how that course of your career has really taken. And this podcast, a lot of people who listen are either alums who want to hear from people like yourself, and we also get a lot of people who are in their career and they're growing their career, they're aspiring to achieve things that you've done, or climb the corporate ladder, be successful. When you look at your accomplishments, what have you learned through the journey that can be applied to a general sense, not specific to just real estate, but what are some things that you've learned chasing your success?
Yeah, I think, one of the main takeaways I have is that, there's no quick success, right? Unless you hit the lottery tomorrow. And I feel like a lot of people try to chase that get rich, quick scheme, or they think there's an easy way to do it. And I keep finding myself back at center saying, the way I got here and the way I can continue to grow is to put in the hard work and dedication. There's just no shortcuts around that.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really what it's been for me, is a lifelong dedication and also laser focus. Like I said, my dad, Brian, has given me a lot of great advice. Everybody makes mistakes, but if you are smart enough to listen to the advice of somebody before you that's already experienced that or has been through that, and you're willing to take that advice and then go put it to work and maybe do your own twist or improvement on it, I think that's important. So the two key things I would attribute to my success would be, one, hard work and dedication, because that's what it's going to take. They say that you can walk the horse to water, but you can't make him drink, right? So you can give somebody the tool belt,
right,
but are you going to go take that tool belt and build the house with it?
Right.
And then number two is just laser focus, staying in my lane. I think a lot of people, especially in real estate, right? You could be a flipper, an investor, a sales agent, an appraiser. I mean, there's so many different hats in the real estate industry. So the other thing that's contributed is just, my dad and, instilling, hey, stay laser focused. Look at what you're really good at. The sales thing has worked for you. I like meeting new people. I love real estate. I've been doing commercial, residential. I kind of do anything when it comes to real estate sales, I say.
Yeah.
So I'll drive around in that lane, but I try to not get out of that lane.
Mm-hmm.
And once you become more successful, there's a lot of people who, hey, come do this, or hey, come do that. And then I feel like a lot of people fail because they're doing 10 or 20 different things at once, and they're not just kind of laser focused on what got them there in the first place.
Right.
So I'd have to say those are probably the two things I've learned.
Those are some great advice. The hard work and dedication. You mentioned you've been at this for 14 years.
14,
yeah, a long time. And we joked about 16 hours a day, but
right,
there's some truth. There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah.
And it's no surprise hearing you talk about this stuff in your story that you were number one, your firm's number one. Like, there's a reason why. There's clues to success, right?
Right.
So that's a lot about the success end of it. Is there anything that you can share with us in regards to maybe challenges you faced in your career? Whether it was times that you really either you doubted yourself, or a deal went through and you thought that was the end, but without getting specific, were there things that you've gone through in your journey that you learned lessons from, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah. Real estate is constant learning of lessons over the time. That's how I got here. You make a mistake, or something goes south in a deal, and you look back and you say, okay, hey, what could I have done differently, or what could I have changed to improve that? And then you just got to make sure moving forward that you're remembering, hey, you know what, I've been here before, and this time I'm in this position. I'm going to take this little different path because I think it will be a little better for the transaction, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I mean, when people are in real estate transactions, you have, short of buying a, $6 million yacht, you're not going to spend any more money than buying your family a primary residence.
Right.
Real estate transactions are usually people's highest value transaction. And when that is occurring, there's a lot of stress on the line for buyers and sellers and agents. And so, the thing I try to do is take the emotional aspect out of it. They say the seasoned agent, right? Well,
yeah.
There is some truth to that, because when you're new, you might be emotionally invested in the deal, and you need to be very black and white and structured on the numbers and the business side of things, so that way, because your clients have all those emotions involved,
right.
I mean, they're buying a house for their family to live in for the next 10 years, or they're selling a house that their family lived in for 30 years.
Right.
And so real estate's a melting pot of emotions. So I try to just stay focused on the transaction details and making sure I'm helping and assisting my clients. And I mean, just that in general has taught me a lot of lessons of what to do and what not to do over the time.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing that all, because I'm sure there's probably a million different directions you're being pulled every day.
Yes, not to mention managing 110 agents and,
Yeah, by the way, managing 100 plus agents,
right.
That's a task in of itself.
Yeah, and that's something else that is really just, amazing that, but there's a lot of responsibility that comes with it. I feel responsible for 110 families, to make sure that they're going to succeed and be able to do what they need to do too. So It is a lot of stress. I'm not going to lie, it's a lot of stress, but I find a little fun in it, and just helping people and the agents and, and you got to stay focused on the positive things. At the end of the day, you got to stay focused on the positive things. Like I have agents all the time, oh my goodness, this huge deal fell through and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, yeah, but remember the other 12 families you're helping and they're all really happy and, and your sales goals are being met. And so it's hard in this industry not to sometimes get, blinded by some of the negativity. But I feel like if you have that good, strong mindset and you focus on all the positive energy and things that are occurring, then it's all good.
Yeah. Well, and that brings up another good point. Something I wanted to ask you is, do you have any practical advice on whether it's called time management or how you would prioritize your tasks? Do you use any methods to help you stay focused? You talked about laser focused earlier,
right.
So I'm just curious, for us to learn from you, how do you stay task oriented and what you've done?
My best friend, Jimmy, is Google Calendar. I'm gonna actually show it to you. So
there we go. This is live.
It's color coded. It's organized. I have a calendar shared with my wife so she can remind me when I'm Ubering for basketball practice and things like that. But I literally stay by the structure of the Google Calendar.
Oh my goodness. So for those of you who can't see this, I'm looking at probably 30 different things in one day, color coded on top of each other.
Yeah.
No wonder why you
Yeah.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah, and even Google Calendar is my best friend, and there's 80 colors and different appointment slots there. That is one way that really helps me structure it. I try not to get overwhelmed by everything I have to do. I tell people this all the time. Focus on what your next step is. It's just like trying to get to the end real quick and get quick money. Focus on what your next step is to get you to that end journey, and instead of getting overwhelmed by the 1,000 steps you have to take, just look down and take the next step you have to take and do the next task you have to take. And I'm giving that advice right now, and that is a challenge for me too, because you can get lost in the 1,000 things you have to do and you don't get anything done because you're not focusing on, hey, what's the next task I have to do?
Well, and I would say for all the listeners to really, understand the simplicity of that advice, but also the importance of it, because we can all get caught up in the 1,000 things that need done. But if we just take a minute to slow down, evaluate what needs done ultimately, and then how you get there, what's the one thing you can do next to move you closer to that? But then also, looking at your calendar, I can see how you do stay focused because you put everything on there, and that dictates what you're going to do to get done and how to focus. And it's very compartmentalized in a way that it'll probably frees your mind to know, all right, I'm on track of what needs done today because you're focusing on those objectives. So, no, that's cool. I'm glad this is all real time.
I got a quote for you. So this goes back to what I was saying. So this is the general version. There was a boy, and he was lost in the woods, and the boy said, "I can't see a way through," and the horse looked at him. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase this. Start over. So there was a boy and a horse in the woods, and the boy looked at the horse and said, "I can't see a way through." And the horse said, "Can you see your next step?" And the boy said, "Yes." And he said, "Just take that." And so that kind of gets back to that, just focusing on your next step, your next task is super important. And that really saves me.
I like that quote. Yeah, because we've all been there, right? It's dark. You can't see anything. You're questioning where you're going to go. It's like just one step at a time.
Just one step at a time. Yeah, that really helps.
I'm going to pivot a little bit to ask you another type of question regarding some of your success, but personal brand. How, can you talk to us about that? What it means to you when I say personal brand, and, what do you think are some of the keys to really building a strong personal brand?
Yeah, I think for me that's kind of twofold. I have my personal brand, Real Estate Jake, my own personal sales business. but also being a part of the Agresti company and the Agresti brand, which is kind of the overall, brand and mission to, take us to the next level together as a team. And it's very important. I think, reputation is really, really important. And I think, going back to my prep days to tie that in, it's like, early on, when you're 15, 16 years old, you don't realize the decisions you're going to make at that time can and will affect the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And not to say that you can't, that kind of, you make a few mistakes, then that could be a good thing that you're not seeing, because as long as you learn from them and go from there. So I think that reputation in the community is of the utmost importance, because you need to be a brand and an individual that people can rely and trust in. And the only way you can do that is over time to show them and accomplish it and build that brand, so then they start giving that trust to you. And honestly, when I was 19 years old, fresh out of Cathedral Prep and getting into the real estate industry, and then getting into the sales, the early years of sales are hard for people. I'm 19, 20, 21, 23 years old, and does the community want to trust you with a $500,000 listing? That's a lot to ask of somebody. And so I think just, people watch. You don't realize how much people actually do watch your branding on social media, or when you're out in public, how you're going to, behave and treat other people. And, when you're doing something wrong, that's going to, flee like wildfire, right? But when you do something, it's the old saying, it's like when you do something good, it only travels, to a few people. When you do something bad, it explodes. So you really got to help and get a lot of people's trust in the community for them to want to refer you to their friends and their family and so on and so forth. So I think, reputation is the most important thing. And, there's the saying, you can't make 100% of the people happy 100% of the time. Right. But if you can make 99 of them happy, one person's always going to be upset. But if you can make 99 of them happy, and then they're at their family events and their outings, and you did a good job for them, real estate can get pretty easy, because all of a sudden my phone's ringing off. I have friends from prep. Literally, while I'm riding around with a guy from prep in town, another prep classmate who I just sold him a house, and sold his house and sold him a house a few years ago, is calling me because he knows somebody buying or selling a house. So it's like, once you treat people right and help them, and they know they can look at it, and transactions are difficult. Don't get me wrong, but when they look at the end result and say, Jake did a good job, or Agresti did a good job, that's what means the most to me. Yeah. That's super important for me. And so I think with just any brand, that has to be kind of the center of it. Yeah. And then it gets back to the grind, and you got to get it out there too. You got, you've given me an opportunity to advertise at prep basketball games. I have a commercial rolling. I get to watch my daughter from the student section with my banner behind her at all times. So, you also have to spend the money to make the money too. Sure. And so, once you get to a certain point, you can't be, you got to say, hey, I got here because I put money back into the community, and then the community supported me. And so you got to be willing to spend the money to make the money a little bit. But, early on in people's sales career, they don't have a lot of that money to be able to do that. And so with the power of technology we have today, with Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all these different platforms, you have to take advantage of that, where you can keep your budget in place and get out there and make a difference through people just seeing you,
Well, and a point with Yuri, it's like you talk to one person and you find out you know probably 10 mutual friends that you don't even met this person before.
Right. Yep.
It's like, that word of mouth, especially in Erie, to your point. Your friend calling you saying he knows somebody who's, it's so important when it comes to business and sales and your brand, that I love how you basically were talking about reputation. First and foremost, serve one person right, and now they're going to pass your word around about who you are and what you do to everybody else for you. So,
right.
Yeah. Just a few more questions for you. I don't want to take up a ton of your time, but, what advice do you have for people maybe just starting in their career? Maybe they're fresh out of college, or they're starting out a new job. What advice do you have for them on, looking to pursue success at a high level?
I think early on in any career, you have to give it the time and put in the work. And so, my advice is, don't get deterred or, don't lose hope too quickly. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know a lot of people are getting through college and starting new careers, and, the economy changes and different places around the world offer different things, and so, I would say just don't lose that hope. You got to, find that position that you're in and just do the best work you can do and work as hard as you can and show the people around you. I feel like, there's two people. One person could go into a position at a new company and they think they know everything at the company and how far they can grow, and they don't realize maybe their superiors or, their boss is really watching to see how they do at the beginning. And, and then another person could come in and maybe have a better mindset and work twice as hard, not knowing where they can actually go to, and maybe their boss is looking at those two individuals, and one's like, well, I'm not going anywhere here in this company, and the other one's like, I'm just going to do the best I can and work as hard as I can for as long as I can, and those two paths at the end of the day will end up very differently. Mm-hmm. And so I would just stay focused on your job at hand again, back to the next task, and manage your time well, and definitely continue to network and keep your name and your reputation clean, and you can grow from that. You don't really know at that time early on what those opportunities are going to turn into, but if you go into it with a good mindset and a good work ethic, I feel like you'll grow into opportunities you never even knew were possible.
Very cool. Appreciate you sharing that. And, that's one of the reasons why I love doing the podcast is, being able to pick your mind and just kind of give advice to people who are listening and looking to aspire to continue to achieve excellence in their lives and their careers. And, how is the housing market looking for Erie County?
I'll give you a little insight.
All right.
Okay, this is a live listing at 2711 Wellington. Okay. I listed it yesterday. We have 23 showings today, 40 showings total over a 2 to 3 day span.
Oh my gosh.
289.9 in Mill Creek right now.
Wow.
So it is a hot market for sellers. There's really low inventory still. That's been a little bit of a struggle, but I mean, we're maintaining and growing and getting bigger with the current inventory we have. So what does that tell me? Inventory is coming on quick and it's going quick. And there's not a lot of inventory staying on the market. And so, I think all in all, real estate is a very safe investment. I was at a seminar the other day, and I think his name's Barry Habib. Don't quote me on that, but they must have paid, $20,000, $100,000 just for this guy to come speak for like 20 minutes. Yeah. and one of the takeaways I got from it is he said 82 out of the past 86 years in American history, real estate's gone up 4 to 7%. Okay, 82 out of 86 years. Wow. So only 4 years out of over the average male's lifespan, right. And probably the average female's lifespan, has real estate gone down. And so even in a market like today, and Erie's been kind of a unique market in itself, we've always had, lower property values and a pretty good living, a pretty good cost-friendly living, I should say, in the big scheme of things when you compare Erie to a Chicago or a New York or a California. So Erie's a great place to live. I love Erie. I think it's going in the right direction with the real estate. There's a lot of development going on downtown. I'm fortunate enough to have the Modern Tool Building, which is a historic building in downtown Erie, for sale right now. And there's a lot of grant programs, federal opportunity zones. There's just a lot of things you can take advantage of, whether you're just buying a home for your family or investing in real estate. It's proven 82 out of the past 86 years to be a smart bet. Yeah. And so, I mean, that really makes me feel good in the overall picture, when you're looking 30,000 feet down on it. Yeah. But it does feel a little hot and heavy for some buyers right now trying to get into some new houses. I feel like when you watch the media and things, it's not always a direct correlation. Like, people are talking interest rates, for example. Oh my goodness, interest rates are so high. Well, the average interest rate in American history is 6%. So if you're listening to this whole podcast, and we go back to when my grandpa was selling real estate in the 70s and 80s, he was telling me, and when Reagan was in era, I think interest rates were like 18%,
gosh, right.
So right now you can borrow money for a house at the average interest rate.
Right.
Now, the past 10 years, we were spoiled, and we saw the lowest interest rates in American history, so people saw 2s and 3s and even 4s, and now it feels like, interest rates are high, but they're not. They're actually average. And real estate goes up 4 to 7% nationally every year, and so when you combine those two things together, it's almost always a good time to buy or sell real estate in the big scheme of things.
Yeah. Well, I could imagine for people who keep an eye on the housing market or, watch, different news sources about this, there's like, what do you actually listen to, and how do you know who's right, who's wrong? Not right or wrong, but it's hard to take all this information in and gather it. So hearing it from you makes me feel, a lot better about it, because you're living it, breathing it every day, and this is what you're seeing as you're doing your job. So it makes me feel a lot better hearing about the real estate market and the things that you had to share for sure on that. We got time for one more question?
Sure.
All right. Last question is a fun one.
As long as it's not the hardest question.
Yeah, no, this one, it's a softball. Don't worry.
Okay.
So I asked this for all my alumni who come on the podcast. It's the last question I ask everyone consistently. But if you, Jake, could go back in time and speak at your prep graduation to your classmates, to everybody who's there, but knowing what you know now, what would you say at that time?
Oh, geez, that is the hardest question.
Gotcha.
I feel like I just got baited. If I could go back and speak to my graduating class, I think part of me would tell them to hold on to the memories and all the fun and the bonds and everything that we created over the last 4 years, and don't lose sight of that, or don't lose those connections. I'm fortunate enough to deal with a lot of the people in the public, and so I've ran into a bunch of my classmates over the years that we've lost contact with, and everybody's at this different point in their life and careers, and this and that's going on, and I think just kind of getting back to the fun that we had, and the memories that we made, and the connections, and how important that is moving forward. Like, hey, we're all going out. We just got through the prep boot camp. We graduated. Now we're going out into the real world. Let's stick together and let's use the bonds that we've created over these times to help each other.
Yeah.
And that's something that has happened in my life and my career. 19, 23 years old, you're rolling into these law firms for closings, and the attorney graduated from prep in 1975, and then you run into all these other professionals, because prep does hold you to a higher level and a higher bar, and so a lot of these professionals all around the world, you never know when you can call on a prep classmate and say, hey, can you help me do this? Or, hey, Jake, I'm moving back and I see you're in the real estate industry. And that's one of the things that really gets me excited when, somebody from prep remembers me in high school and has seen my career develop, and they come back and say, hey, I graduated, I'm an attorney now, I'm moving back in town, I'm going to be an attorney here, or this or that, or whatever the case may be. And they're like, I want you to help us find a house. And it's always a little special feeling that, hey, we graduated high school together. And so I just find that amazing, that the bonds you could build there and what prep instills in you can be carried with you throughout the rest of our short lives.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And it's something that only if you went to prep, or you went to Villa too. That same bond we're talking about is a sisterhood there at Villa, as we know too. And but no, it's something special, and it's something that we take pride in, right? Being a man of prep, or a woman of Villa, but women of prep now too, for the students nowadays. But appreciate it, Jake. Thanks again, and congratulations on all your success.
Thank you.